This is the Etobicoke Lakeshore Podcast. We do it like a bunch of friends. With me, of course, hi, I'm Mike, and there is Roger Tumanieri, the publisher and chief cook and bottle washer of the Etobicoke Lakeshore Press. Hi, buddy.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Good. Now, the heat wave has hit. We went straight from winter directly into a full-on heat wave. And how are you holding now? And we're also social distancing. In a heat wave, that seems to make some sense. How are you holding up, buddy?
Yeah, you don't want to get too close to people when it's really hot. But I'm holding up great. The
Good.
kids are doing well. It's a little rangy in the house.
Yeah.
You know, that part has continued. My wife is a saint. She's holding down the fort while I sneak away and hide out in my truck to do this podcast.
He's got the air conditioning on full in the truck, and he's truck casting remotely. And we're doing the thing here in studio where we have, the good old plexiglass and the 6 feet social distancing. Because today we're bringing in a guest, and they're actually in the studio with me right now.
Yeah,
and
this is our first in-studio guest in some time.
It is.
It is exciting. Yeah,
it's a big deal for me to see another human being in a three-dimensional sense. So before we get to our guest, let's do this. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You see, it is all about the Etobicoke Lakeshore area and the neighborhoods, the businesses, and the people that make this community so great. And Roger follows it in print, and you can go to Etobicoke Lakeshore Press.com. The newest publication is out there. Who and what is that one all about, buddy?
Well, this is our community edition featuring Councillor Mark Grimes on the cover. He's the Toronto City Councillor for Ward 3, Etobicoke Lakeshore, and he's been gracious enough to grace yet another cover of the Etobicoke Lakeshore Press.
He's a good guy. We had him on early days of the COVID pandemic reaction and response that we had here in Ontario. And as a city councillor, he gave us a perspective on what was happening, and what they were going through in those early days. So it'll be great to get an update from him coming up on the podcast at some point and get his insight on the community now in the publication.
Absolutely.
You got that once again, Etobicoke Lakeshore Press.com. And on with the show we go. Who's our guest today, Roger?
Oh, speaking of local folks who make the community great, today's guest is Michael Muzzin. He's the president of ITEX Barter Canada, based in Toronto. Mike, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, Roger, thanks so much for having me, and I'm excited to be here. And thank you for the kind intro. I almost teared up there. Well, very kind of you.
I make a lot of people cry.
Yeah, I have cried in his presence several times. He just has that warm nature where you just want to open up to him. But this is an interesting guest for me as well, because not only do I know Mike Muzzin as an outstanding business guy in the community, but also I know him as the lead of a television series that I produced. He was the primary star of, was it 2 seasons, Mike, or did you just do one?
I just did the 1 season.
Yeah.
Does Roger know the background on this?
No, do tell.
Well, many years ago, I made a TV show with a buddy of mine, Howard, and it was called Man Up, and it was a fake game show. In other words, we set you up thinking that you were playing a game show, basically abused you for 22 minutes and 48 seconds, and then at the end, you realize that one of your teammates on your team, who was a useless part of the team and a distractor entirely, and probably the reason that you guys failed over and over again, is not even a team member, but he was one of our cast, a plant that we put in there. Mike was that plant, an amazing actor and comedian. So that was, and also we've been friends for years. So to have him as a guest, can I add one more thing?
Please.
We do a weekly podcast just like you and I do.
Yeah, we do. It's a lot of fun.
And I'll recommend that you listen to that. It's called The Business and Barter Show. And so this is kind of fun for me because you've introduced me to so many people in the community. And I don't even know how I was able to do this, but I was able to introduce you to Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's been a great introduction. I've since joined the ITEX Barter Network, and I'm happy to be a new member, Mike. Thanks for bringing me on. And it's great to work with you and collaborate through the magazine as well as the Etobicoke Lakeshore podcast, or the L Pod, as we like to call it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we have a nickname for it.
The L Pod.
The L
Lakeshore
Pod
podcast. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
if you'd like
cool.
to get your L Pod mug, reach out to Roger right now, and he'll make sure that Well, we'll have to make them first, but L Pod, I think, is our slogan.
That's cool.
Yeah. Maybe, Mike, you could tell us a little bit about, first of all, what is barter?
Of course, yeah. A barter, in a traditional definition, is trading between two parties. If I can segue, ITEX was, or modern barter exchanges were created, and they became, to start, I guess, back in the late 60s, actually, out of California. And basically what it does is it solves the inequitable component of a barter transaction. So if somebody says, I want to trade this for that, and it's not really a fair trade, barter systems like ITEX, they solve that.
That's the check and balance in that deal.
Yeah, they solve that challenge, and they use it. We do that by providing ITEX barter dollars as the basically form of payment. So you can take that as a form of payment as a sale, and then apply that to another purchase,
right?
All without spending cash. So that's effectively how we do it.
And you have been in Etobicoke for how many years now doing this?
A long time, since 2007. And we've been doing it for thousands of businesses across the country, multiple offices. But obviously with Etobicoke, much like yourself, Roger, and now for you, Mike, after quite a few years, this area has become just such a near and dear, part of us. And, it's so much to love about this area. And I know we all know this almost to exhaustion. And, it's such a great area, and I love being in the area. So a long time. And I grew up in Caledon, but I kept coming to this area as a kid. So I know this area very, very well, and really, really enjoy being here. And that's why I chose to settle here, sort of post getting married, if you will.
It's funny, Roger, Mike and I are from the same neck of the woods as well. Of course, That's only our history, and we find out after the fact. Yet we both gravitate to this neighborhood because it's vibrant for business. You can go to lunch in this neighborhood, and you could eat your way around the world in a matter of like 5 or 6 blocks, but still, it's on the water, and there's all these beautiful parks.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, Marie Curtis Park. I mean, right, Roger? I mean, it's such a wonderful park.
Oh, yeah. That whole area is a hidden gem. And I'm almost, in a way, glad that it hasn't been discovered yet. Certainly real estate prices, before the pandemic, were soaring in that area, and rightfully so. But yeah, places like Mary Curtis Park, Samuel Smith Park, Humber Bay Shores Parks, like just all those waterfront parks are so beautiful.
Yeah. And, then you feel as a business that you're actually a part of the community. And before you know it, you realize that you are. That, people are coming to you locally with their business, that you're going locally in this area with your business,
Yeah, actually, and I should tell you, Roger, I noticed you guys, you're working with Excalibur and Wendy and Ann.
Yeah.
And I came to them, and they actually did some awards for me. But really bringing them up, first of all, it's a great little business in the community, and we love to support them. But it's just,
what do they do?
They're like you can
a trophy and award business.
Yeah, trophy and awards, and they do engraving, and I guess they do laser as well, right?
Yeah, they do. I was having all the cover features from the magazine put on plaques and gifting them to the folks who bought those cover features. So they were doing all that work for me. Mind you, that was pre-pandemic, but Wendy and Ann are wonderful, and it's a great little family-owned business.
I think they're wonderful people, and I know they have been affected by, obviously like so many other businesses, by the pandemic. But I was talking to Wendy about actually opening up an account with ITEX just a few weeks ago, because like many businesses, they're going to be shifting the way they do business.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's amazing the pivots that we've seen on this show. And by the way, go back in previous episodes and have a listen, because the amazing ingenuity and innovation that has come out of this neighborhood quickly thanks to the pandemic. Roger, it's been incredible, hasn't it?
Oh my gosh. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, people have really let their creativity shine, and they found new ways to stay in business and to thrive. And I think certainly there was always a place for barter, but perhaps now more than ever. I think as the whole economy shifts, I think, Mike, for you owning a barter network with ITEX, I would hope that the prospects are quite good on your front, and just in terms of bringing on new members. I think barter's probably in some capacity the way of the future. for B2B sales.
Have you tried to use cash anywhere lately? It can be difficult to start with. But also, you're right. In a place where, maybe I could paint a picture for you. I opened the pod plant, and the pod plant required certain really specific specifications to make sure that it sounds okay when we do a podcast. And part of that is just carpets, rugs on the floor. I got both of the ones that I needed on ITEX. I needed a lighting solution. I made the arrangement on ITEX. Wanted to do signage, ITEX. Arranged for the desks that I sit at, the desk that we're sitting at right now, and a number of the accoutrements that just turned into what is the pod plant. I did that, and in exchange, I have ITEX members that come in and do their podcast. One of which is Mike Muzzin, and so I've taken advantage of launching my business this way, but I'm not the only one. And in fact, recently, Mike has been in the news a lot, Roger. And
I saw that. Yeah,
it's amazing that people are seeing right now the value of ITEX. And check out what happened in Niagara Falls. Tell that story, Mike.
Yeah, we had a client come to us and he was looking to expand basically his businesses and said he always wanted to open a pizzeria. And so he shared that plan with our area director, Ian Charnock, in that area. And then Ian called me, and one thing led to the next. And before you knew it, he had generated about 30 grand, even more if you add some of the other spending he did, but specifically for the restaurant, about $30,000 in sales. And he did it through selling personal effects. He sold gift certificates for future business, for pizza, of course, and wings. And then they took that money and they built the restaurant with it. So it's very cool. They bought, it's.
Can you imagine they built the restaurant? And of course the news showed up like, how are you able to do this? So it's a fascination. The guy really put out, at a time where cash is king and you need to hang on to it as much as you can. This guy, like myself, pretty much launched his business with it.
Yeah, he, and to your point, I mean, he basically, as a seasoned person who's worked with us for so many years, he basically came along and said, well, I know that these vendors exist in ITEX that I could work with. So that's basically how it started. And then we said, well, we need a lawyer for a franchise agreement, because he bought basically a franchise from the parent company, a franchisor. So he did that. It did accounting and legal to set it up. Then he did all the tiling and flooring and countertops and painting and restaurant equipment and signage, and he bought advertising. They just launched 2 weeks ago. So.
Meanwhile, you're busting your hump at home there, Roger. You could be getting all this done on ITEX, son. You know what I'm saying?
I'm working on it.
I was going to say, aren't we all? We're all busting our hump, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's Mike, you and I joked a couple of weeks ago that, just when you think business is sort of on cruise control, and it's not like you ever take your foot off the gas when you own your own business, but now with this pandemic, it's like we're all starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And we're building something from nothing, but at least we have the skills to do it. But it's nice to know that is possible, to build something from nothing using ITEX. And, I'm trying to keep you, Mr. Muzzin, busy with some accounts that I'd love to see worked on and ads being pulled into the magazine through ITEX. Like, we got a bit of a list going there, and I think it's a great opportunity for me, certainly to bring on some new relationships, some new customers through the magazine, and also the podcast and the website. So I'm looking forward to see where this goes.
A couple of things that I'll point out that I've used Barter for a bunch of years, right? And you may think to yourself, like, a couple of things. One, your accountants understand this. First and foremost, relax. They get it.
Right.
Okay, so if you're wondering, I can't do ITEX because it's not cash business, and how's it going to affect your accountants get it. You can discuss it with them first. Maybe you need an accountant. They're available on ITEX. But that's the first thing I want to tell you as a business owner. This is not going to affect you with CRA. It is business.
In fact, ITEX is a publicly traded company.
There you go.
Meaning our parent company in the United States is a publicly traded company.
And it's audited constantly.
Correct. Yeah. And so now our operation is a little different, but we're still connected in terms of our back end, our software, our management, all our reporting to CRA and the IRS. In fact, in the IRS, it's government controlled. So they have a separate form specifically for barter transactions.
And in Canada, it's treated like normal business.
That's
so I
right.
thought I'd tell you that. Secondly, a misnomer I've heard from friends of mine when I'm like, you got to get on ITEX is like, well, I get a client and then I'll never get them for cash. That's not true. You know, your breadth and spread of an array of products and services can be limited to what you can do on ITEX. And that means that you can take the items that you need or the time that you have in excess and move those specifically. And on that front, it's a great way to meet cash business face to face.
And not only that, but just the source of referrals.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have a client and they're on ITEX, that ITEX client is going to be referring you cash business.
Right.
And that's the thing, right? Like, Roger, I know we're talking about some of the local sales initiatives that we're doing, but if in theory, let's say you didn't have Excalibur as a client of yours, but there's a neighboring company that's a competitor to them and they're on ITEX, then you leverage that relationship to go into Excalibur and say, hey, Excalibur, say Wendy or Andy, your competitor is working with us at Etobicoke Lakeshore Press. You could be doing it too, but you're getting them in Canadian currency, whereas the other client is paying in ITEX.
Right. You can open up the category.
Correct.
That's a good point. You can open up into new categories of business. So now let me ask you, you're going to be on the news. By the time people listen to this might have come and gone, but it's going up quick. You're on 680 News next week?
680 News actually was last week.
And who's coming up this week?
A report on business was 680 News. Next week is CP24 morning.
CP24, that's right. My comment was, you're everywhere, which was...
the City TV thing?
That was old school.
No, but that was, I don't know, not many people are going to get that reference, but that was pretty cool. So yeah, Tuesday morning.
Okay, very cool. And if people wanted to find out more about ITEX?
They would simply, you could just search us, using any kind of search engine, Google, but, unlimitedbarter.com would be the best one.
Sorry, that was what?
Unlimitedbarter.com. Unlimitedbarter.com.
Oh, you beat me to it that time.
There you go.
And I'll recommend you reach out. Mike is exactly who you're catching here on the show. He's a good guy, and I'll recommend him from many years of hanging with him.
You guys are too good to me, man. You're too kind.
I would expect it back at some point.
You deserve it.
Yeah, you're a good guy, Mike Muzzin.
But isn't that? I'm sorry. Let me just say, isn't it true though? When you get to work with people and you don't, you just have an ability, whether it's a local community business or just the three of us right now. And when you can actually have a really good constructive discussion, whether it's a passionate, topic or something a little bit more debatable, it's such a nice opportunity to do that when you have like-minded individuals. You don't have to agree with them, but it's nice when you can and you can have a really good discussion. And so I appreciate you guys inviting me on. That's really nice.
Delighted, man. Thanks so much.
Our pleasure.
Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. We call it the L-Pod, but it's known out there legitimately as the Etobicoke Lakeshore Podcast. Visit ETOBICOKELakeshorePress.com, and we will catch you next time, Roger. Take care, buddy.
You as well. Thanks, Mike.